You ever drive down an empty highway at night? Just you, your headlights, and that endless stretch of asphalt cutting through the dark? At first, it feels calm, peaceful even, but after a while, your mind starts playing tricks. The shadows in the trees start to look like figures. The road signs blur. And suddenly, you realize there's nothing out here to protect you if something goes wrong. And that's when the horror really begins. See, truckers know something most of us don't. The road has its secrets. It remembers every accident, every disappearance, every scream that never made it to the police report. And if you drive long enough, late enough, the road will show you things you wish you'd never seen. Tonight, I'm going to take you down that highway. And I'll warn you now, by the time we're done, you'll never stop at a gas station at 2 a.m. without looking over your shoulder. You'll never see an empty rest stop the same way again. And you'll never, ever pick up a hitchhiker, because some of them were never alive to begin with. There's a saying among drivers, the road remembers. Ask around at any truck stop diner, and you'll hear them. Stories of hitchhikers who vanish without a trace, figures that appear in the rear view mirror, and truck stops that exist one night and disappear the next. So let's start with the most chilling, a story about a girl who still waves down truckers, begging for a ride home. The only problem? She died over 40 years ago. It was just after 2:30 in the morning. A trucker named Carl was hauling through a stretch of interstate in Illinois when he saw her. A girl, maybe 19 or 20, standing on the shoulder, waving frantically. Carl slowed down, rolling the window down. She looked pale, terrified, her dark hair sticking to her face like she'd been crying. Her clothes were torn, dirty, like she'd been running barefoot for miles. Carl leaned out and asked, "You okay? You need help?" Her voice trembled. "Please, he's coming. Don't leave me here." Carl didn't even think. He opened the passenger door and told her to get in. She climbed up into the cab, her hands shaking so badly she could barely close the door behind her. He noticed her feet, bare, raw, covered in cuts. As they drove, she kept looking over her shoulder, whispering, "Don't let him find me. Don't let him find me." Carl tried to calm her down, asking where she lived. Finally, she gave him an address just outside of town. For the next 20 minutes, neither of them spoke much. Carl kept glancing at her, wondering what kind of hell she'd just been through. When they finally pulled up to the house, Carl turned to tell her they were there, but the seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. He hadn't heard footsteps. She was just gone. Carl sat frozen, gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. When he told other truckers about it, one of them leaned in and said, almost in a whisper, "That stretch of highway, back in '83, a girl was murdered out there, hitchhiking home after a party. Some folks say she still flags down truckers, try and make it back." Carl swore to himself he'd never pick up another hitchhiker again. And to this day, if you drive that road late enough, some say you'll see her too, waving desperately, begging to be saved from a man who's been gone for decades. Not every story ends with someone vanishing from the passenger seat. Some leave drivers with scars they can't explain, scars on their minds that follow them every time they close their eyes. Ask Lisa. She'll tell you about the man in her rear-view mirror. Lisa was a seasoned driver, 18 years on the road. She knew fatigue, knew the tricks your mind plays after too many hours behind the wheel. But she also knew what she saw that night wasn't just exhaustion. It was just after 3 a.m. She pulled into a small rest stop in New Mexico. The lot was empty, just a rig under a broken light that buzzed like an angry insect. Lisa locked her doors, reclined her seat, and tried to get some sleep. Around 3:10, she woke up. Her throat was dry, so she reached for her water bottle. And that's when she froze. In the rear-view mirror, she saw him, a man, sitting perfectly still in her sleeper cab. She couldn't see his face. His head was bent forward, shadow covering his features. But his shoulders rose and fell like he was breathing. Lisa whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. She reached slowly for the knife she kept near the driver's seat. Her fingers closed around it, but they were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Then Summoning every ounce of courage, she turned around. The sleeper cab was empty. She gasped, relief flooding her body, until she looked back at the mirror, and he was still there. Other truckers would later tell her the same thing. They'd seen him too, always around 3 a.m., always silent, sitting in the sleeper cab like he owned the place. Some say he's a ghost of a driver who was killed at that exact rest stop in the 70s. Others believe he's a warning, showing up only to drivers who are close to the edge, pushing themselves too far, driving past their limits. Lisa never stopped at that rest stop again, and to this day, whenever she checks her mirror at night, she half expects to see him sitting there waiting. But sometimes the road doesn't just show you ghosts. Sometimes it plays tricks on reality itself. There's one story, told again and again by drivers in Oklahoma, about a truck stop that shouldn't exist. A place that feeds you, takes your money, gives you a receipt, and then disappears as if it never was. This one happened back in 1999. A driver named Mike was hauling a load through Oklahoma when his fuel gauge dipped dangerously low. Around midnight, he spotted lights in the distance, a neon diner sign flashing open 24 hours, a gas station. Relief washed over him. He pulled in, fueled up, then stepped inside the diner. It smelled of coffee and fried food. The waitress looked like she'd stepped out of the 1950s. Beehive hair, red lipstick, bright smile. She poured him coffee without asking and slid him a menu. Mike ordered a burger and fries. The food was perfect, too perfect, almost. The fries crispy, the burger juicy, the coffee strong. He ate, paid in cash, and she handed him a receipt. Smiling, she said, "Safe travels, honey." The next morning, he showed the receipt to another driver at a stop. The man frowned. That diner? That burned down 20 years ago. Whole place went up in flames. Everyone inside died. Mike didn't believe him. So later that week, he drove back down the same route, same exit, same mile marker. But when he pulled over, there was nothing there, just an empty field. He still has a receipt tucked away in a drawer. The ink's faded, but the date on it? 1977. And when he tells the story, he swears he can still taste the coffee. Not all horrors on the highway are ghosts. Some are very, very real, and some are out there right now. That's what Dana learned the night she was chased. Dana was hauling through rural Texas when headlights appeared behind her, riding too close. She thought it was just an impatient driver. But after 20 minutes, the car was still there, flashing its high beams, swerving, pressing closer. She pulled to the side, expecting it to pass. But instead, the car swerved too, blocking her path. Her instincts screamed at her. Something was wrong. So she floored it, her 18-wheeler roaring down the highway. The car gave chase, swerving, ramming the trailer, trying to push her off the road. Dana grabbed her CB radio, voice shaking. "This guy's trying to kill me. Anyone out there?" Other truckers answered. Within minutes, headlights appeared ahead, a convoy of rigs forming a wall. Dana barreled toward them, and when the mysterious car saw what was waiting, it peeled off into the night. Police never found the driver. But to this day, drivers whisper about a predator on the highways of Texas. Someone who stalks rigs in the dark, waiting for the perfect victim. And if Dana hadn't called for help that night, she might have been his next kill. These are just a few of the stories whispered across truck stop diners and late-night runs. Ghost hitchhikers begging for rides home. Shadow men who sit silently in the sleeper cab. Truck stops that vanish into thin air. And predators who don't need to be ghosts to be terrifying. The next time you're driving alone at 2 a.m., remember, sometimes it's not just your imagination. Sometimes the shadows really are moving. Sometimes those headlights behind you aren't just another car. Because out here, the road remembers, and it never forgets. Subscribe to True Crime Vaults for more episodes of stories like this.